Womenomics. Womenomics. Talk to me about womenomics. What a word.
Oh, I know. I'm obsessed by this. I'm not going to lie. And I've sat with this for a good while, Scott, because I think partly I had to wait till I was at a point where I was ready to launch it. So Womenomics is just an absolutely boss term. Right? It actually comes from some work that happened in Japan, which did a whole load of work looking at the impact of women in business and how that affects the economy. And it is proven that having women in senior positions is good commercially.
Hi, and welcome to the No Graft, No Glory podcast in a slightly different visual bit than we've had previously. So we've had some technical difficulties, so we are using a alternative method. But please stick with us because I promise you it's going to be an absolutely quality episode. So today, for episode 4, I am joined by Christy from chapter 22, who is here to tell us all about the joys of setting up her own business. She's going to tell us what she does, how she got to this point. She's even going to tell us all about a new word that I've just heard today that sounds really, really interesting. So, how are you, mate?
Hi, I'm good. Thanks so much for having me on.
Hey, it's no problem. So, obviously, I know you, but people listening and watching don't know you. So, tell us a little bit about Christine and how you got to starting the graft of running your own business.
Hi, everyone. So I'm Christine and my business is chapter 22. So where does chapter 22 come from? It comes from 21 years in corporate, where I was a director for 15 of those. And this time last year, I left a career in banking and decided that I was going to follow my dream, which is chapter 22, and set up my coaching business. So I'd worked in banking for a long time. That's not my kind of backstory. So I did a degree in languages at university. So I speak fluent Spanish, French, Italian, and Dutch, which does come into play a little bit into the story in a sec. Somehow fell into banking, was never a big intention to go be a director in a bank. Went to Barclays as a contractor and ended up staying 21 years. It was really different, really diverse, loads of career opportunities there. And I guess I had a life experience in 2014, which was me experiencing burnout, which kind of changed the trajectory of my career, I guess. I'd always worked in change and transformation in the retail bank. And at that time, when I burnt out, I realised that there was something more that I wanted to be doing. I'll go into that in just a little sec. That kind of put me on a trajectory where I wanted to learn more about how the mind works. I'd always been fascinated by that. I'd spent a long time supporting people through development, so through coaching, through mentoring, a huge passion of mine. And so I decided to pursue a master's degree in psychology. I'm part-time at the same time as COVID, which was an experience and a half. And I, with the intention of one day wanting to bring this all together in a way that I could better support people. I've done the first couple of years training to be a counsellor, and I'm also a listening volunteer with Samaritans. So when this all kind of came together, I knew that my goal was to, when I left Barclays, help people through life events, I guess, whether that be, through their career, through relationships, through life transitions, so women going through menopause. But the big thing that when I left Barclays, I really wanted to do was help women like me. So particularly people who were heading towards or experiencing burnout. That was very, very real for me, Scott, and it fundamentally changed the course of my career and my life, in fact. And to help women like me who got to be a director. It had its moments and its struggles, but that was the intention when I left Barclays. It set me up really well for being a founder of my new business. I still chuckle when I say that because it's still so alien to believe that that's the dream.
Amazing. So you told us a lot there, right? So, it's really interesting, isn't it, that careers, people, in particularly women, who get to these senior positions. You're not the first person I've heard say, it was a struggle to get there. I had to conform, I had burnout, all of these type of things. And for those of the people on here know my story, that they know that I also had a breakdown whilst working in the corporate world. So it comes with these challenges, right? And I'd love to delve, with your permission, a little bit into that. We're not going to relive everything, right? It's not a therapy session for you. We're going to talk about business and how you're going to use those. But more importantly, as somebody who can hardly speak English, I wanted this. You said you speak, is it 4 languages, 5 languages? What was that?
Well, English, Spanish, French, Italian, and Dutch. Yeah.
See, I can't even count. Okay, brilliant. Now, the question I've got for you is, how do you remember all of these different languages in your head? Because I cannot speak English properly.
Because I think what helped is I learned Latin, and I studied classics when I was younger, and so having Latin really helped with Latin-based languages. Dutch was a bit of a curveball. The only reason I learned Dutch was because I wanted to learn Japanese and I couldn't get on the course at uni, so I opted for Dutch because it worked with my timetable. The others kind of makes a logical fit. Spanish, French, Italian, they all kind of follow Latin-based.
Okay.
I think, Scott, I'm just dead lucky, right? Because my brain is wired that way. I loved languages and I was just a geek at school. I still am a geek, as you know. So I can't do much else. I was saying this to somebody the other day. I can't cook. The kids call me can't cook, won't cook. I'm a rubbish driver and I can't do maths. So I had to be able to do something. So thankfully for me, it's something quite profitable, which is being able to speak a lot of languages.
Brilliant. So it wasn't just that you couldn't cook, so whenever you go on holiday, you can order your takeaway in that language. Then there was more practical reasons to it, right?
Yeah, it has its perks. Like, you can pretty much bank that wherever you drop me in Europe, I'm going to be able to understand what people are saying. So it does have its advantages.
No doubt. So chapter 22 can go international quickly, right? Absolutely.
100%.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. This is where my world kind of come together. Yes, definitely.
Blows my mind that anyone who can speak one extra language, which I think should be a must, right? I think it's really good, especially thinking about the world today, globalization and all of those type of things. If you're looking at Latin or Mandarin or whatever, Spanish, Mandarin, obviously the most commonly spoken languages in the world. So being able to speak those is going to help you in business and whatever you're doing. But let's just concentrate on English because that's the only one I'll be able to understand right now. So and obviously with our 2 strong accents of Scouse, Liverpool, and the Northeast, Middlesbrough. Hopefully, people can understand us when they're listening to us. If not, we put snazzy comment on the bottom anyway, so people can be able to read the transcript. So, you were talking there then about, that career, 21 years. Yeah. Why not chapter 21?
Because it was a new
chapter 22.
Because it comes after chapter 21. So and the moment it landed was my old boss at the time, and I think I was still like going on adrenaline, asked me to meet him for a drink and check I was okay. And we met, and there was another person with us, and he said, let's do a toast. And he said, to Christine. So they were like, to Christine, and out of nowhere I just said, to chapter 22. And then I was like, oh wow, that's the thing.
Amazing.
And it's been that ever since. Like, I never even considered calling it something else. I mean, to somebody else, it won't really mean anything. But for me, that's exactly the way it feels. That is the start of a brand new, exciting chapter. And also, it means I get to look back on the other chapters, and I can, because I've got loads of learns from them. But also, you've got the rest of the book ahead of you. So it's quite fitting, it's quite poignant. I'm a geek. I love reading. I love literature. I love all of that. So it's just typical Christine.
I love it. Absolutely love it. I think anything that we can do that means something to us and translates, right, is a win, right? And actually, when you said it's pretty obvious, right? 21 years, the next chapter, which absolutely makes sense. I told you it takes me a long time to catch up, whether it be with the language or whatever's going on. So, 21 years, big changes, lots going on. You had some challenges, which have obviously led you to this point. So, was it always the plan when you decided to move on to the next chapter that it was going to be the setting your own business up world? What was that? What was it excited you about having that business?
So I remember weighing it up, right, because security and stability is really important to me. I'm a single mum with a mortgage on my own. And so I guess at the back of my mind, I was thinking, is this risky? And there is risk for sure. But I always knew, Scott, that I'd given so much of me to corporate and I loved it. I have no regrets of my corporate days. But I just knew that there was more I could do for me and follow all of my passion. And so I knew that I had to give it a go. I knew that it was something that I believed I could make work with the passion. I'm a grafter, right? It's no surprise that we connect because I'm just an out and out grafter. So I knew that if I could give 14 to 17 hours a day to a bank, then I could give 14 to 17 hours a day to building my own business, with the intention that, you know, there is no intention to work 14 hours a day, but the belief that doing something I solely believe in and truly deep down believe in, I had to give it a go. I remember being a couple of weeks out from this time last year thinking there was a job that came up in another bank pretty much identical to what I did. And I remember thinking, okay, like, it's now decision time. Do I follow the same path and do more of the same? And I kept coming back to, I'll never know unless I do it. So I just decided, I weighed it up. I didn't make a decision for the first few weeks because I knew that it would be based upon emotion. So I sat with it for a few weeks, which is quite unlike me. Went away with the kids. And then I was on a flight on my way home from Mexico, and I've got the picture of the seat in front of me, you know, where that shows your trajectory from where you are. And I hadn't formulated what this would look like. And I remember looking at the map. The lights were off. It was a night flight, looking at the thing in front of me. And I remember seeing Mexico, Manchester. And I looked at it and I was like, somewhere between Manchester and Mexico. And that's when it hit me. I was like, right. And I got my phone out because I've never talked about it. I've never said a word, never wrote anything down. Got my phone out, and in my notes was just like, it's called Chapter 22. It's a coaching business supporting women like me to be able to thrive in life, whether that's through after burnout, whether that's to get to a director position, to help them juggle midlife stages, all of that stuff. By the time we landed in Manchester, I was like, we're good. And then 2 days later, I registered the company and I was away. I just needed that time. So it was never the intention. And to be honest, there's a risk from going from being a well-paid structured director in a bank to going on your own. Like, I'm not a business owner, I'm a brilliant coach, that I didn't doubt, but I've never run a business before. So they were some of the fears kind of going into it, but the fear wasn't strong enough to stop me. I just decided I got to give it a go.
Yeah, it's right. I love that, you know, and it's interesting, that, isn't it? Because when you were talking about that and reliving that memory, you had the biggest smile on your face there, right? When you were talking about it, it's really interesting, right? Because a lot of people, when they set businesses up, are scary, especially, you know. And one of the reasons why I've set this podcast up is so people can listen to it and see people like them who are in those early stages of business. We see so many people who are 10, 15 years down the line with businesses, and we try and compare ourselves to them. And we're never going to be them. They've been through the graft, they've been through the failures. Yes, they'll try and help us. But ultimately, if you know people who are in that same boat as you, doing it, who are in that same stage, just gives you that little bit of belief to go, come on, if Christine can do it or Scott can do it, then I can do it, and we'll go there. So how many months in are you now?
I launched the 1st of November 2025. So it feels like a lot longer, right? Because I had this period in between where I launched the business, where I was building it in the background, if you will. And I officially switched on the 1st of November. And honestly, Scott, I look back now and I think, unbelievable. I was like, okay, I'm ready, let's go. Day one, waiting for all these people to come. And, you know, I'd heard all this stuff. I'd done so much research. I'd watched so many videos. I follow so many people who were like, you're going to go and have a 30k month. You're never going to have less than 10k. You're going to have work queuing up. And I was like, tumbleweed. So nothing. And I mean, nothing. And I think partly, you know, November, so not an amazing time to launch a business, but also it's quite naive. Like, I think I expected, like, ta-da, I'm ready, are you? It doesn't work like that. It takes so long. And everyone I've spoken to throughout this process has came back to the same thing, which is it takes time. Now, I'm dead impatient. I'm dead impatient. So come December, I was like, well, it's not working. It's not working. Now I look back and think it was a time thing. It definitely was, because once the momentum starts, people engage and you get connection, it starts, but it's definitely not an overnight thing. I had a really, really low point at the start of January. I took mum and dad on a cruise. We went around the Caribbean, and I remember thinking, I don't know if this is going to work, and I can't afford for it to not work. So if it's not going to work, I need to jack it in really quickly and go and get a sensible job, because I've got a mortgage on my own and 2 kids. But I knew I hadn't given it long enough, and I spoke to an amazing colleague and friend through my network, Rosie, who on one of the lowest days that I can remember said to me, Chris, don't give up. It might be in touching distance. It might be just round the corner. Hold on. And Scott, in days, in a matter of days, something just connected. I'd launched my second business to bring in some income at the same time in January, which thankfully kept things afloat, whilst the coaching business was growing, which I can come back to that in a sec. But like, be under no illusion, the start is really hard, and like I am a serious grafter, as you know. It really tested my resilience. But what I would say to anyone doing what I did, it is a time and thing, and you've got to hold on, and you've got to believe that it is going to come together, that it is going to work. Like, I believe so much in what I'm doing, and I kept hold of that throughout the time. And you've got to be patient with yourself. We talk quite often, don't we? Because I'm quite hard on where I am in my journey. But when I look back and think, actually, I've achieved a lot in that. It's not even been a year. It's actually been a year to the day that I had the conversation about me leaving Barclays. So I'm ironic that I'm doing your podcast on that day.
Oh, well, happy anniversary of having that, because it's been a tough year. Right? And do you know what? Thanks for sharing that, because I think so much of that is true, right? So we all need a Rosie, right? I think everybody needs a Rosie at some point to just give us that dose of, not reality, right? Because our inner voice will always tell us that we're going to fail, and and we're not going to do this, we're going to do that. But sometimes just that little friend or person who can resonate, understands, just say, no, come on, don't give up. We're there. And I think, I think that really, really helps. And everybody running a business, it's never easy. It's hard at every single point, but especially at the start, if you've never done it. Like you said earlier, I'm not a business owner. I've sort of got news for you, mate. Like, you are, because you own 2 businesses. You are a business owner.
I feel like bona fide now. Like, when I used to say, I'd like whisper it. I'd be like, I don't know what I am. I don't know what to call myself, because I felt like such an imposter. And then one day I found myself saying, oh yeah, somebody was asking, I was in Samaritans, and somebody said, oh, do you need to get time off work? And I was, oh no. I said, I'm self-employed and the founder of a coaching business. And I was like, wait, what? It was like, can't believe I just said that. And then she just looked at me. She didn't even like question. I was waiting for someone to go, what do you mean? Are you sure? Have you got the credentials? But now it's like, I was so used to saying I'm a director in a bank. That was my identity. And it's such a monumental shift. And there was like a little period in between where I was like, I don't know what to call myself. I don't know what I am. And it was a guy, Clive, who I've worked with before. And he said, like, just because you're on gardening leave doesn't mean like you pause and you hold up. Like, in 3 months, I will be a founder of a company. Like, that's your identity. You got to believe in it. So it's brilliant. Like, now I'm like, yeah, sure, I'm a CEO. I'm a founder of my own business. In fact, I've got a portfolio career, and I've actually got 2 on the go.
I love that. I love that. And I think, again, it's lovely to see the big smile on your face when you're talking about that. Because, again, like you said there, we get so caught up in the day-to-day of running the business, right? Because you've got to grow business. Like we've talked about, you wear all the hats, right? I'm a salesman, I'm a marketing manager, I'm an accountant, Oh yeah, and by the way, I'm a coach as well at the end of that. That's what I do.
So like
Where
that
always
amount
had
of time.
yeah, right. Well, the 80-20 rule, right? You're 80% sales in that first year. And it's like, how do we ever take the time to just reflect and sit back and go, right, where have we come from? Because when we do that, we actually realize, oh, bloody hell, 9 months I've gone from this to that. 12 months ago, I was having that conversation, not really knowing what I was going to do until I got on that flight or whatever that may be. It's a scary time. So to see where you've come and done, I think is amazing. And yeah, I do want to talk about the other piece as well. We'll come back to it though, is, and if you've got other abilities to run two businesses, so you realize that the financials and the coaching business may take a little bit longer to build up with trust and coaching, especially in the coaching that you're doing with women, needs trust, right? They've got to trust you implicitly to be able to share where they're at. That takes time to build up, but having the languages and being able to run the language school and be a tutor and do all of that, absolutely then is the vessel for you to build the coaching up and doing that. So life coach then. Now I'm going to be honest with you, mate, right? I'm going to be right honest with you. So I hear this bandied around all the time. There's a lot of life coaches at the moment. There's a lot of women coming out now saying, I'm going to be this, I'm going to be that, which, and you know what? All power to everybody. But to us mere mortals, what the hell does it mean? So what is it? What is it that you're coaching? What is it that you do?
I hate the term life coach. I think it's too woolly for me. And I don't ever kind of position myself as a life coach. I am a coach. That's kind of what I do, but it isn't as broad as life. That's pretty, a big spectrum, isn't it? So I help people who are stuck, right? So they're stuck, whether that's in the career, they're stuck within a relationship, they're stuck at a transition in the life. So for women, like menopause, or they're stuck in a cycle, like those who I coach for burnout. And my job is to help them get unstuck. That's as simple as it is. If you take burnout as the example, and it's the case in study, because that's why I built this business. It's to help people move forward. And this is the big difference, because so many people confuse coaching with therapy. Coaching is all future focused goals and moving forward in a way. Yes, it's helpful to understand the cause of some of this, but I don't dwell on the whys and wherefores as to why something happened. I'm interested in what habits do we need to change to move you forward? What do we need to unpick? What do we need to create? That's kind of what it's about. And for me, it's about helping someone realize that potential in whatever that looks like. I know when I see my clients with a light bulb moment, when they no longer need me, when they become unstuck and they've got a plan. And often then it's a case of just helping them execute and hold them to account against it. So that's kind of how I describe what I do. Now, it helps the fact that along this journey, I did my master's degree because I was fascinated in behaviour and how the mind works. And I did the first 2 parts of the becoming a counsellor qualification, and just realised that wasn't for me. But the skills were so important. And then the listen and volunteer and the Samaritans, they all help with my coaching, for sure, because they help me to create the climate where my clients feel really safe. They can open up, they can feel free from judgment. And often that's a really, really big thing for them.
Yeah, I think, God, honestly, man, don't know where you get the time, man. So you're a director in a large corporate company. Obviously, you said the name earlier. 2 kids, single mum, university, coaching courses, Samaritan, running 2 businesses. So yeah, we need to put your middle name, don't we? It's a bit of Wonder Woman, don't we? In this, it is. But I think what's lovely to hear you there, because again, it's good to know that you've got that grounding. So being a Samaritan and listening is huge, right? Because people want to come on, they don't want to be preached at, right? At certain points, they want to be listened to, right? And sometimes just having that someone who they don't know to listen to, well, does what it says, right? It saves lives. And I think you're amazing for doing that, because, it's something that I don't think I could do, if I'm honest. at those hours in the morning. So I think that's amazing. And like you said there, that burnout piece, and you are right, life is fluffy, isn't it? Because life is anything to everybody and it's huge, right? But you're specifically looking at these women who have been on this journey, who have had these challenges, and you said there that it is lived experience. So there might be people listening to this call now going, oh, I think I'm one of them. Well, that does my head in. So if you don't mind, and obviously you don't need to go into it in full detail, but what was the moment that when you started to recognize it was burnout, or you recognized there was something wrong, that people might be listening to this thinking, oh, I've just been brushing it under the carpet. So what was it that was that moment for you?
The moment was the 18th of November 2014 at 7:30 a.m. So I can be that specific.
Okay.
And I went into the office for a breakfast meeting. In the build up to it, Scott, like physically, mentally, emotionally, I was just drained. People think burnout is this big, spectacular, bang, everything goes.
Yeah.
It's not. For me, it took years to get to that date and that day. But on that particular day, I'd become so detached and I was numb. I went from caring so much to genuinely not giving a shit anymore because I was that exhausted. Everything was heavy and really, really tough. And I just knew I couldn't carry on. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what was going on. But that day I went into this meeting, the guy was sat opposite me speaking, and I'd had a bit of a to-do in the morning with my ex-husband. I was trying to put makeup on and he came in the bathroom and snapped at him. And he said, Chris, you're not easy to live with right now. And I was trying to put makeup on and it wouldn't stick because I was crying so much. I got in the car, put the aircon on to try and like cool myself. And I thought, I can't carry on like this. And he's right, I was horrendous to live with at that point. And as this guy was speaking to me in the office, I literally just went and I closed my laptop. And he said, where are you going? And I said, I'm going home. And he said, okay, when will you be back? And I went, I don't know. Packed my bag. I remember walking through the revolving doors thinking, shit, I don't know if I'm coming back here. Like, I don't know what happens now. And that was the moment that on one hand, it felt like it was the end of my life. But on another, it was a massive turning point and the start of my healing journey. So drove home, put my bags down, was just a mess. Yeah. And then seeing the doctor the next day, and they said, you've got kidney infection, tonsillitis. I'd lost like a third of my hair. I was suffering from sleep deprivation. And it's had this pain behind my eye for a couple of weeks. And I kept thinking, oh, I need my eyes tested, but I haven't got time to go to the optician. And I'd said, you know, my head was booming. I felt like my head was going to fall off. It just wouldn't ever switch off. And then she said, the pain behind your eye, Chris, is your blood pressure's dangerously high. You are literally days away from a stroke. And I was like, oh, no, but like, and she said, no buts. Yeah. And that's the point, then your body catches up. Because it's tried to give you the signs, right? My body tried for years to give me the signs, but I just chose to ignore them. And so it just shut me down. You know, there's different stages of burnout. And I catch people at different stages. I hit stage 5, final shutdown. Catastrophic. You've abused your body and now your body says stop. That's the end of it. And that's where I then rebuilt. The doctor said to me, one day you'll look back and be grateful for this and be glad it happened. And I was like, are you actually kidding? That can't happen. Everything felt broken, Scott. I had to rebuild my whole life. And I did.
So, I mean, thank you for sharing, because obviously, you know, the fact that that moment to the minute, right, of the day that you can remember what happened, and ultimately, you know, what we don't want is for other people to get to that point, right? You mentioned the different stages, and you got to stage 5. Obviously, it was catastrophic, but not as catastrophic as it could have been from what the doctor told you, right? There's a couple of weeks later, and you know, unfortunately, I'm sure many people know some people who that has happened to when they've got to that next stage. So for those listening, again, we want people to realize, when they're grafting. Yes, this podcast is all about grafting and setting your own business up, but also if you listen to this and you're grafting in the corporate world, there's no work, right? Hard work's hard work, and you're doing it. What would those, or what would you say to some people listening now that are some potential signs that if they're seeing that or they're feeling it, what should they do, or what could they do really?
So the biggest thing I would say is don't ignore it. Don't think it's going to get better, because honestly, it doesn't unless you address it. And burnout can be caused by loads of different things, right? So it's definitely environmental. So it's an occupational phenomenon. So there's no getting away from the fact that work is a big driver. But it's really hard to hear this. So your behaviour has a lot to do with it. That was really confronting for me, Scott, to realise that I actually played a massive part in me burning out. So the people pleaser in me, the fact that I hate to say no, I don't want to let people down, I feel guilty all of the time, I sabotage my own needs, like that isn't helpful. That had a huge role to play. You can't go through healing from burnout and ignore that, right? So you can change your environment, but it's going to stick with you. So go get a new job somewhere else, but if you don't change your behaviours, it's going to follow you, right?
Yeah,
so there's part of it. Yeah, there's part of it that says you've got to confront it. And don't do what I did. I thought, oh, I'll just get to the weekend. If I can just get to my holiday, it'll get better. One more milestone. Like tomorrow never comes. It just doesn't. So you've got to confront it. Now, by the way, that doesn't mean like blowing up your life. It really doesn't. For me, healing and recovery is about small steps. I bang on about this like religiously. It's just trying to be 1% better every day. It's atomic habits. I live and die by this. It doesn't need dramatic transformation. It's just making small changes that you can cope with. And that's the bit of my clients. They think they're going to have to like rip everything up and start again and give up the career. You don't. It's about identifying the habits that drive you to burnout, unpicking the unhelpful ones and creating new ones. Like even I could do that. And it takes time and it takes effort.
Yeah.
But you can do it. It takes a long time to get to burnout. It takes a while to recover from it. But it is absolutely possible. And I know I went on to experience something called post-traumatic growth after burnout, which meant my life got so much better after it. People say, could you ever go back to work? I ended up, being an outstanding director. I was voted Barclays Woman of the Year. I absolutely went back to work with bells on, and I had a very successful career. I let go of I let go of a gobshite ex-husband who'd affected me for many years because I had the strength to be able to not need that around me anymore. And so it can be really daunting, but I just want people to have hope in the fact that it's not just a case of getting back to survival. That isn't enough, right? The clients I work with, I'm like, if that's all I get you to, then I've failed, right? Because you want to be thriving, you want to be happy, you want to be living again. You don't want to go back to this version of you that was just existing. Like, we're not here for that. We're here to have one life and to live it fully. So it's never okay when people say, I want to go back to the old me. I'm like, no, you don't. You don't. You want to do more than that.
Do you know what? I love that. So it's funny you should say that, because again, I think a lot of that resonated with me, right? Because as you can tell, I'm not a woman, but I think a lot of those things that you said there resonated with the journey that I went through, in that you want to climb the corporate ladder, you want to be the best you can be. Same when you run your own business, right? You want to be the best star you can be, you want to be the best you can be. But if you don't listen to your body, because you will say, nah, I'll be all right on the weekend, so just get me a good night's sleep or whatever that is, you've got a battery, right? And your battery runs out. It doesn't keep going. I found emotional intelligence, NLP, and a lot of what you were saying there, I resonated as like self-awareness was a big piece for me. Understanding who I was and why I was, and then self-belief. So again, believing in yourself, because again, you lose a lot of belief in what you can do. And I love what you said there. And I think I'd never heard that phrase before, Chris.
Yeah.
Post-traumatic growth, and I love it because I'd never.
Very
So
good.
that's what happened to me. So I had that breakdown, came back, I read those books and thought, you know what? I'm not going to chase the corporate ladder. I'm not going to.
Yeah.
People keep telling me you're good at what you do. I was getting top ratings, or apply for this
Yeah,
job,
yeah.
you'll get it. You don't get the job, all that bollocks that we all go through. And then I stopped caring. And when I stopped caring, and what I mean was I still went to work, did the best I did. I
Yeah.
just didn't give it the energy that it wanted from me. I had 3 promotions in 4 years, and similar to you, I ended up winning, you know, the award that was awarded to the top 1% of employees in the company, and, you know, getting those jobs that I wanted when I stopped caring and I just cared about people and making sure that they were the best they could be. I could do the best I could be. My family could be the best they could be. I think it's amazing. And I think, you know, thanks for sharing that, because again, I was like, oh, bloody hell. So this is for anybody listening, right? In whatever you're going through, because running a business is stressful.
It is.
Being in that environment is stressful. But I also like what you said around, you're not a therapist. You're not on here professing to be a therapist. You're saying, look, there is a time and place for that if you need it. But if you are ready to look forward and you want to know those goal orientated moving forward, thinking about what you can learn and how you can move forward, you're there to do that and to help them. So if anybody is getting those feelings, let's not let it get to stage 5. Let's, you know, read some books, reach out to Chris. We'll share your details after this, Chris, you know, and on there and follow that. I think it would be unbelievable and amazing. So burnout, thinking about women, helping them grow, helping them move forward, all of those challenges they have. You taught me another new word. You've taught me 2 things this week. Look at that. Post-traumatic growth. And you also taught me another word that I'm really interested in. Womenomics. Womenomics. Talk to me about womenomics. What a word.
Oh, I know. I'm obsessed by this. I'm not going to lie. And I've sat with this for a good while, Scott, because I think partly I had to wait till I was at a point where I was ready to launch it. But having run this since November, I've met enough women that have backed up my belief that this is needed. Right. So Womenomics is just an absolutely boss term, right? So it actually comes from some work that happened in Japan, which did a whole load of work looking at the impact of women in business and how that affects the economy. And it is proven that having women in senior positions is good commercially. So it's not just good for women, but it's good commercially. It's good for culture as well. The challenge is getting more women in senior positions. And so the whole concept of Womenomics is like leveling the playing field to get more women into those positions so they can break through these barriers, call them invisible. I don't think they're invisible. I think some of them are very visible. And Womenomics is all about getting the woman who's waiting because she doesn't think it's time. She doesn't think she's good enough. She doesn't think she can get over those barriers. To be able to say, yes, you can, and you can, and you will do it. And so Womenomics is a program that I'm launching, which helps women kind of focus on some of the stuff that holds them back, their values, the beliefs, because that often has a big part to play. It definitely did with me. I had a load of self-limiting beliefs. Once you identify what they are, you can address them.
Self-aware, love it.
Yeah, self-aware, exactly that. And then there's some practical stuff as well about impact. And by that, I mean things like I did some articles last week on LinkedIn. The fact that women are always apologizing for stuff that they've not even done or they feel compelled to because of these invisible roles. The fact that you get like this bullshit feedback that says, you know, we're not going to promote you because you lack gravitas. Like, no, we're not doing that neither. It's this kind of thing that helps them navigate in the way that I did right through my corporate career. I don't think I always fitted the mold, right? Because I've got a strong Scouse accent. You know, there weren't lots of people like me in my position. I was a woman, a single mom, come from a very different socioeconomic background in the fact that like I'm truly working class. What you see is what you get, kind of with me. And I'm hugely introverted as well. So, and that's less about the concept of people think you're shy, outgoing, any of that stuff, but it's to do with where your energy comes from. But also, it's when I'm at my best. And so I just didn't always fit the mold. But you know, I got there and I never changed who I was. I stuck to who I am, firmly believed like this is me. And there were moments where it was really hard, where, you know, I was at a crossroads of, do I have to modify who I am to be accepted? And I never did. And it maybe took me slightly longer than some other people to get there. But I'm really proud of the fact that when I left Barclays and that legacy that I leave behind me, I know one thing that people would say is I was a really good leader of people. And that's because I connected. And at times people wanted to use my kindness and compassion against me. Like Womenomics is all about, we're not doing that. Just because I'm kind and compassionate doesn't mean I'm not kick-ass and I can't make decisions. Like, watch me. You need me to make a tough call? Watch me. Just because I have those traits, don't underestimate my ability to have impact. And so I just feel like there's women who are just playing it safe right now, who think it's easier to stay where I am because that world is unknown. I don't know if I can break through. And they just need a group of women behind them and some belief that says, yes, you can. And it's good for you. It's good for business as well. And I don't think we do enough of that. So it isn't about a grade even. It's about just helping women break through. And I'm even more passionate about that for women who come from underrepresented communities as well.
Sign me up. I'm in. I mean, I know I'm not a woman, but I'm in. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like, it's unbelievable. Because again, I think I love it. So, you know, I suppose you would call me a bit of I'm an ally, definitely. You know, I was a single mum for a while, and you know, my mum was doing things in the civil service in the 80s. There was a challenge, and some of the stories she shared with me, the practices that went on there and that. But it almost creates, doesn't it, these inbred beliefs in a lot of women in business, through real life experience. By the way, they're not made up beliefs, but it's almost this part of, you know, having to conform, making sure that we're doing this, making sure that you said there, you know what I mean? Oh, well, we'll just say that because it's easier. And I think, you know, every single person should be allowed to be their best self, right? Bring their whole selves into what they're doing, be the best selves, never hide themselves behind a bush. There may not be any bushes, do you know what I mean? But you know what I mean? Don't hide yourself don't hide behind anything.
Yeah.
Get yourself out there and doing it. And I think the other bit that you said there as well would really resonate with me, actually, because corporate world and business world, by the way, in fact, probably more so, can be really isolating and really lonely, and it's hard to open up, especially as you know, I would assume from what people have told me, as a woman, you know, you don't want to show that weakness, you know what I mean, within that world, and for men. But again, it's an assumption, right, that women will just cry. Yeah, I just cry. Like, you know, just get in a group and cry together, which is bullshit, right? It's just not even that. It's, you know, and all men will just pretend that they're all right, and they're not. We've all got our challenges. But you did mention there, didn't you, about saying, do you know what? Don't move away from it. I want people to have a strong group of women. So is Womenomics based on groups, or is it individuals? What is it?
Both. So I want to run it as a program. So we've got women who can be in a cohort with other kick-ass women. That builds your network as well. And often, you know, I've got this view that it takes another good woman to pull someone back from the edge. And I didn't really always have that in my career. I want to have a group of women who can attach each other, you know, when that's happening. So that's really important. But I want a woman to be able to go through that program on her own, just with me, because group coaching isn't for everybody. But they still want that experience. How do I have impact? You know, how do I be comfortable in my own skin and own that this is me? But still get the power of the group kind of program. So I wanted to work for both. And that's why I've created like a dual program. So you can do it individually or you can do it as part of a group. It's a blend of online sessions. There's one-to-one coaching sessions. There's masterclasses within. There's work that people do in between, case studies, as well. Access to all of my resources that kind of go with it. And something that I'm really proud of is, as a commitment to my social purpose, for this program, I am going to fund a place on Womenomics for a woman who has a barrier. So money is a barrier to getting them through coaching. So I'm welcoming people who come from underrepresented communities to reach out, and I will put them through the program. I'm going to run that twice a year. And because I know how hard it is, I still think I'm a privileged woman, right? Because I'm a white heterosexual female. So I've got some element of privilege there. And I can't imagine how hard it is through intersectionality if you're faced with more than one barrier. And so for that woman, I want to help them break through. And I feel really passionately about that. So that's just part of, I guess, me giving back. I do that already. You know, I help lots of women without charging, because I have such a belief that it shouldn't be a barrier. But this is part of the program. It gives them a level playing field in what otherwise wouldn't be.
Yeah, I think, you know, a lot of us do that in our space, right? We're coaches and consultants and do this. You want to help people, right? Because that's what we do it for, right? We're massive empaths and we want to help people and don't want people to go through. But ultimately, when you are running a business, you need to make money, right? And people need to recognize to pay for the skill that you're bringing to help them. However, I love that, especially known from where I'm from in the Northeast, in one of the most socially deprived areas in the country, areas of Liverpool and across the country, there will be other people who deserve that opportunity, and if there is a barrier, then they can reach out. I think that's absolutely fantastic, you know, and I think, you know, yes, there is a space to make the money, which clearly you will do, and help a lot of these women, but we can help other people. And again, the other bit that you said there is, I think, around the community. I think what's really interesting, isn't it, with anything that we do, is yes, you might want to go out through this journey by yourself. But I would think automatically anyway, right, through going through the Womenomics program, you become part of the community anyway, right? Because you will be a part of a selective group, which is growing, but a selective group who've been through that journey together. They'll always have you to reach out to, and then vicariously the rest of the community who they can come into it and to do that. And are you're gonna open this up, because obviously this podcast is all around owning your own business. We've talked a lot about corporate world, but would it be open for female founders to join as well as 100%. Women in corporate who is going for director roles?
That I want a cross section of it. Even if I have to run the cohort through like multiple numbers, I don't want all of the same people on it. I don't want a cohort just of corporate. Because that's not real life. Let's be real. You know, I want it to be business owners, corporate. I want it to be people who are aspiring. They don't have to be a certain grade, a certain level. I want it to be like completely inclusive. I want to keep the numbers small in the context of the cohort, but I can run them parallel, so that doesn't kind of worry me. In fact, that would be a really good problem to have. I built this, Scott, and I sat on it for so long because I've made some tweaks to it, because my thoughts have changed from when I built this in November, based upon the women that I've coached and what I've seen and what they need. So now I'm at the stage where I'm like, it's ready. I've done the typical woman thing. I've waited and waited. And then I had no more reason to wait. And I thought, actually, there's so many women that I know who just need the confidence and have somebody to just say to them, like, what's holding you back? Hold a mirror up in a safe way and just remind them that they can. Because often women just hear why they can't. You know, and my job and the job of the women who are on that program is to lift each other. I see brilliant examples of that every day, women lifting women, and it's so powerful when you see it. And so it's about that. I want to create that community where people go on and are stronger together. And even better, if they're from different industries, different sectors, that's great as well. That's great for business. That's great for people to grow. So the more of that, the better.
Get it. Womenomics, taking over the world. I love it. I love it.
I know.
And at the end, we'll put all your details on, Chris, and people can reach
Thank
out
you.
and you know, you can find out. But absolutely get into that. So we've got a little bit of time left. I'd love to just talk about you know, the graph behind the glory of the business as well, and running the business, really. Because again, I know we touched on it a little bit earlier, but I suppose if you were putting your I know you don't like the word. Well, no, you do like the word. No, you're smiling. So your business owner, founder hat on. Yeah. And in particular for any, you know, women watching this who are wanting to set themselves up. Yeah. What is the is there one thing that you would share with them to say, do you know what, this has really helped you get to that point? Is there anything you would share?
Yeah, so I have still a little bit massive hang up over sales, and I had a major block on it because I have no sales background, and so I was really uncomfortable at the prospect of selling anything. It's just not in my nature, and I had to overcome a fairly big barrier of what that was. And once I started to look at it in a different way, and I leaned on experts in people who've done this to help me get to a place where I can be comfortable. Once I realised that I'm not selling, I'm helping someone solve a problem, and that sits comfortably with me, then I don't feel like I'm selling. But I really had to get over this thing of I'm not a salesperson. Anyone who's been around me on this journey will know that's what I said from the get-go. And I'm not. And I still say to you, I'm a shite salesperson. I do say that to you quite regularly. Yeah, I'm growing my business every single day. And that's because I'm not out there going, oh, this is my business, this is what I do. What's happening is it's happening organically through people referring me and recommending me. I'm not actively pushing and selling that because I couldn't do that. But I did have a mindset block on how to take my business forward. So I leaned on people who had that experience to help me kind of overcome that mindset issue that I had. So it is hard because you do have to try and be all things. You have to be legal, you have to be HR, you have to be marketing. And I was a good coach, the other stuff I had to learn. Don't be afraid to bring in people to help you, because you're not the expert at everything. So where I know I've got a gap, I lean on people to help me, because there's no point me flogging it if I just don't have what it's going to take. So I guess just don't be afraid to recognize that you're not going to be everything when you start up. I wasn't, I'm not now, I'm learning. My head could fall off with the amount that I've learned since I've gone through this process has been like astronomical in such a good way. And I get to the end of the day and I think, I'm really tired, but it's a different kind of tiredness. You ask any business owner this, it's a different kind of tiredness. And I read the best quote that I've seen, which said, I'd rather take my toughest day as a founder than my best day in corporate. It was from a woman who ran a little pottery business. And it's so true. Like, I loved my corporate life. I really did. It's not a diss on that. But when you're doing something for you, for your kids, like for your future, and you're making a difference to people's lives, when I see women complete coaching and thriving, that's worth being tired. I'm never going to burn out again. That's never on my agenda. But all of it, every single bit of it is worth it.
Beautiful. I love that. And I think, you talk a lot there, don't you, about clarity, right? I've always talked, you guys listening will know I talk about clarity, control, and consistency till the cows come home, right? And I think that's really it, isn't it? It's that having that clarity and understanding, where do I need to be, right? I'm going to challenge on something, actually, because you are a salesperson, but you do a relationship sell, right? So you put yourself in the right environment with the right people to understand where you need to be, right? Because if everything you went to was groups of men in the room, well, you wouldn't get many referrals, right? You wouldn't get many sales because you wouldn't have a clue, right? But if you put yourself in the right environments with the right crowd and knowing those people, and then they see your authenticity, which is one of your massive traits, is how authentic you are and that lived experience, then people warm to you. You put yourself there, you use your LinkedIn, you've had some fabulous LinkedIn posts that have gone out there, and hitting 10,000 impressions and those type of things because it resonates with people. So that is selling. So for anybody listening, if you put a LinkedIn post that's authentic, not AI generated, if it's authentic and it means something to you, and it's about what you can do and how you can help people live the experience, that's selling. If you have conversations and networking events where you tell people you can't sell and you're the world's worst seller, but you know what, you love to help people, they will see that authenticity and they will want to know more about what you're doing. That is selling. Coming on podcasts and talking to, prematurely grey Northeasterners, that is selling. So I am going to challenge you a little bit on that, and I tell you off for that all the time. You are selling, you are good at it, but you are selling through your authentic self, and it's a
Totally.
relationship sell of what you were doing. And I think that is a good point to anybody again listening or anybody in. It's just like, sales isn't all about cold calling and emailing
Not
and
at all.
doing that. It's a
No.
combination of everything. Now, if your audience and the people you sell to respond to cold calls and emails, crack on. But
Yeah.
in your world, Grace, of life, people have to trust you and believe that you are
They
authentic
do.
and
They do.
and clearly through listening to your story and your journey today, and if they can see the joy that comes to you, or when you're talking about what you've done, I think that they will see that. So I think, yeah, amazing. You set the business up, you're 9 months. I'm going to bring you back on. I think I'm going to get you on as a return guest in a few more months to see how you're getting on and where this is going.
That'd be
And
lovely.
also, what I'd love to do at some point is do a Womenomics podcast, right? So we can get some
Yeah,
cohort on
that would be good.
about Womenomics.
I think that would be good.
So where do people find
Just
you,
one
mate?
final thing.
Oh, yeah, go
So,
on.
just one final thing on the selling point, right? So for a while, I questioned my impact and whether I was cut out for this. And it was a conversation with you that made me realize, when you put me in a room with somebody or you put me on a discovery call with them, I connect with people. My issue wasn't at that point, they go, nah, I don't want your service anymore. My issue was getting in front of the right people. And for so many people listening here, be clear on what that barrier is, because mine wasn't one of, I went delivering in terms of like converting that call. It was getting to the right people. And that conversation is so important. And it was your challenge to me of, you're not selling because you're not even getting in front of people. And that was an uncomfortable reality for me. So you can't sit behind this, I can't sell, if you're not even connecting with people. And that's got much easier for me over time. Once I've dropped this thing of, I'm trying to sell, because I'm not, and it's not my nature. But you realize you can genuinely help somebody and they realize that they really want your help. That sits perfectly with my integrity. I don't feel like for every penny I've made from my business so far, I don't feel I sold any of that. I feel like people have come to me either through a referral or a recommendation, or because they believe I can help them, and I have. Like, that sits dead comfortably with me. So I don't think I'm ever going to be, a top salesperson, which is why I've still got you. But at the same time, which is what I mean when I say bring in people to support you where you've got those gaps. But don't let it be the thing that cripples your business neither.
Yeah, I think, I think it's a really, really good point. I'm going to leave it on that note. I think, do not let that be like, get in. Don't be in rooms with people who ain't going to buy you or don't get you, because they're never going to recommend you, because they just don't get you. So, think about where you're at, understand those people, and referrals and recommendations are the best type of sales you can get, right? Because that means people trust you, and they wouldn't recommend you if they didn't trust you. So keep grafting, kidding, because you're doing absolutely fantastic. I'm loving it. I'm loving to see what happens with Womenomics, and all the inspirational things that you're doing there. Where can they find you? That's what I was asking you. Where can they find you? So you're on LinkedIn?
I'm on LinkedIn. I'm Chapter 22 on LinkedIn, and Christine Kearney as well. I'm on Instagram. Chapter 22 Wellbeing. I'm on TikTok as well. I'm not cool enough to do real TikTok, but I'm there anyway. Mainly LinkedIn, Instagram. You can message me at christine@chapters22.org.uk as well. And if you are someone who this resonates, particularly the burnout bit, please, as a safe space, do reach out. Don't think that you're not ready. Don't think you've got to wait till you crash and burn. We can have a cuppa and a chat in a safe space. Don't hold off on that one. So do reach out if you need support.
Beautiful, brilliant. Well, thank you so much. So
Thanks
that's
for
it for
having
this
me.
episode. Like always, I've got to do this daft bit at the end right now. So if you do like it, do me a favor. I haven't got hardly any subscribers, right? People keep watching these videos, right? But they don't subscribe. So get a subscribe on, like the video, share it with your mates and your family and anybody else who can benefit from Womenomics. And we'll do it in Dutch, Spanish, French, Italian, and potentially Japanese at one point. All right, brilliant. Well, thanks a lot. We'll see you on the next one.
Amazing. Thanks, Scott. Take care.